So welcome back everybody to Pooley Mag TV, the raw, unedited, unscripted NUFC fan channel where everybody's got an opinion and nobody's opinion's wrong. As you can see behind me, my new flag. So you're not seeing me kitchen door, you're not seeing me fridge, you're not seeing a blank wall. We've finally got a little bit of Newcastle memorabilia behind me, and I've got last season's Newcastle top on, so we're ready to go. So in today's Pooley Mag TV episode, we are going to discuss Newcastle's rise to the Champions League. So we're once again a Champions League club. But what I want to do is something a little bit different. I'm not just going to talk about this season's Champions League, but our rise to the Champions League. So a little bit of a history from Eddie Howe, where we were at when Eddie Howe come into the fore, when he come in to manage Newcastle, to where we are now. The good things, the bad things, how we've managed to get that trajectory, easy for me to say, from being a bottom half Premier League club season in, season out, to now being in the Champions League 2 seasons out of the last 3. And if it wasn't for Manchester United winning the FA Cup last season, we would have had spent the last 3 seasons in Europe. So, what I wanted to talk about really is where we were at before Eddie Howe come. Where were we at? Where we were under Steve Bruce, weren't we? You know, we were under Steve Bruce, we were playing some diabolical football, and one week we'd have a good win and we think everything was on the up. We had some decent players. We had St Maximin, we had Joe Willock, we had Callum Wilson, but we just didn't have a plan. Now obviously the things have come out from Dwight Gale and everybody else that Steve Bruce just did not want to attend the training sessions, didn't make them train every day, wouldn't be there at the ground half the time, probably he's having his doner kebab or his pie or whatever. Steve Bruce was a good manager, I would have said 10 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, but when he come to Newcastle, you know, he kept saying it was his dream job, but it clearly wasn't, because he went to Sunderland, he had plenty of opportunities when he went to Birmingham. You know, he's had plenty of opportunities to be Newcastle manager. He's always and always will be a Manchester United fan. He's an ex-great Manchester United legend, so you can't take it away from that. But when he used to come out and say, oh, well, you know, it's my boyhood club, you know, and it just wasn't, was it? You know, it wasn't his boyhood club. It might have been his boyhood club, but it wasn't his dream job. So that's where we were at. We were languishing mid-table every year. Happy to stay up. We had Mike Ashley as the owner, who would sell somebody and not reinvest the money. We had our heart and soul ripped out, hadn't we, really? You know, the heart and soul of the club, you know, had been destroyed. There was no pride in the club anymore. Our fans we were used to getting beat. We were accepting of, or if we get, as long as it's not 5-0 against the likes of Man City, the likes of Arsenal, the likes of Manchester United, you know, we weren't even we weren't even bothered about getting a win or a draw. We knew we were getting beat. We just didn't want to get thumped, and that was the mindset that had been drilled into Newcastle fans for so long under Mike Ashley. We'd had the Kevin Keegan and the Sarah Bobby Robson years and the Freddie Shepherd years where we did plough a lot of money into it and we didn't accept defeats then. But under Mike Ashley, year in, year out, we become accustomed to losing big games against big teams at home, on away, in the cup, in the league, anywhere. It's not that we weren't bothered, it's just that we become numb to it. And I remember having conversations with my dad and other Newcastle fans saying, well, as long as it's not 5-0 today, it'd be a good result. I was getting beat 4-0 a good result, it's not. But that's how we'd been brainwashed into believing that this was somehow acceptable for a big club like Newcastle to be getting tonked off all the big teams and finishing 12th, 13th on 40-odd points a season, scoring 40-odd goals. So that's where we were at. Now, don't get me wrong, we were like that before Steve Bruce. I honestly thought Steve Bruce was better for us than Rafa Benitez. Controversial opinion, I know that. But I honestly thought we played better football under Steve Bruce than we did Rafa Benitez. The only thing different between Rafa Benitez and Steve Bruce was Rafa stuck it to the board just about every interview where Steve Bruce was quite happy to lick Mike Ashley's arse, wasn't he? That was the only difference, and I think that's what put people off Steve Bruce and made them really like Rafa. But if you look at the actual points and the goals, there's hardly any difference between the two managers, and I honestly believe I watched better games under Steve Bruce than I did under Rafa Benitez. But anyway, moving on to October 2021, we face Tottenham. The Saudi takeover has just happened, and we get thumped at home off Tottenham after taking the lead. This signalled the end of Steve Bruce, didn't it? This signalled the end of Steve Bruce. Now, we come out publicly a week or so later to say that we got Unai Emery. And then Unai Emery turned us down publicly and went to Aston Villa. This looked like a little bit of a small club move. It made us look a little bit small fry, didn't it? A little bit like last summer with Mark Gay. It made us look a little bit small fry, and I remember all the TalkSport pundits laughing at us, all the ex-Liverpool and all the ex-Manchester United players laughing at us that Unai Emery's chosen Aston Villa. And we then decided to go for Eddie Howe. Another thing that we got ridiculed for, Eddie Howe, why they signing Eddie Howe, the man that took Bournemouth down. Not taking into consideration that Eddie Howe had took Bournemouth from a League 2 relegation battle to the Premier League and kept them in there for 3 seasons. That just got absolutely whitewashed, didn't it? Everybody was talking about like Bournemouth, he got Manchester United relegated. You know, I thought Eddie Howe was the right choice from the get-go. I really did. And I really do think we made the right choice in Eddie Howe. He come in, you know, and we were poor. I don't remember his first game. I think it was against Brentford. I might be wrong, but we drew 3-3, I think. And you can see signs of improvement already. Then I remember the Norwich game where Kieran Clark got injured or sent off, one of the two. You know, and he put Joe Linton in midfield to bolster it up. And that was a masterstroke that we've never looked back from. But it wasn't all rainbows and butterflies under Eddie Howe, was it? You know, we were still getting thumped quite regularly off Arsenal and Leicester, when Leicester were a really good team. You know, and we went into the January transfer, we got beat off, who was the rubbish League 2 team that beat us in the FA Cup? Comment down below if you can remember that one, because it just went out my head. But we got beat. It was Kieran Trippier's debut. I just can't get the name of the team off the top of my tongue. But if you're watching, comment down below. Hit like and hit subscribe if you want to and all. But comment down below, who was the team, you know, who beat us in the FA Cup? And that, I thought, signalled the end for us. We brought in Kieran Trippier, who's been absolutely fantastic, hasn't he, for us. We brought in Dan Burn, who not many people knew about. I certainly wasn't totally aware of Dan Burn. You know, I really wasn't totally aware of Dan Burn. And then we brought in Matt Targett on loan and the superstar of Bruno Guimaraes. Now, Bruno didn't get in the starting 11 straight away. Eddie Howe liked to rest him. You know, he liked to embed him, make him watch from the substitutes bench, you know, and get a feel for how quick the Premier League is, because playing in France is completely different. So we went on a bit of a run. We beat Leeds away, and that seemed to just be a little bit of a starting block for us. And I don't think we look back. I remember we played Arsenal at the back end of that season, and they just looked absolutely shit scared of us, if I'm honest. The flags and everything. I said to my dad, these aren't ready for us tonight. And they weren't ready for us. They simply weren't ready for us. You know, and we've never looked back from there since. We added Botman that summer. We added Isaac that summer. You know, and I just thought, and we're going place here. We added Anthony Gordon, you know, in that January. And we played some great football his first full season. Callum Wilson scored 18 goals. Isaac coming to the fore, you know, after a few injuries. And we went on a really good run. We got beaten in the Carabao Cup final. And then we went on a massive run to finish 4th. And we got Champions League football. We then went out and bought Tino. We bought Lewis Hall. We bought Harvey Barnes. And we bought Sandro Tonali. Now, obviously, Sandro Tonali then, he clearly wasn't himself with all the betting scandal going around. Harvey Barnes got injured. But Anthony Gordon really stepped up to the mark. Really stepped up to the mark this season. You know, we finished 7th. You know, he was fantastic. He was absolutely fantastic. And we had a little bit of a messy run, didn't we? A run where we got knocked out of the Champions League and we were sliding down the league. But as always, Eddie Howe pulled it around. And we should have got the Conference League that season if it wasn't for Manchester United. Eddie Howe, over the course of his Newcastle career, has had some really dark moments where I've really questioned him. He's been loyal to certain players, he's been stubborn with formation, but when it comes to the crunch, Eddie Howe has turned this team into a mid-table, languishing, happy to stay up, to now a contender for Champions League season in, season out. And you've got to bear in mind, we haven't bought a first-team regular player in 2 years. The last person we bought was in the summer of 2023. Now that's madness, isn't it? That's madness. To get us 7th with all them injuries last season and to get us 5th into the Champions League without buying anybody this season is just phenomenal. And the journey we've went on this season, I remember after the Brentford away game, I said to my dad, it's game over for Howe. And my dad went, just stick with the project, son, stick with the vision. And I couldn't at the time, I couldn't stick with the project. I couldn't stick with the vision. I was sick of watching the same mistakes made by the same players. And he just was not learning his lesson. But as all great managers do, he got the players in as a collective and on a one-to-one basis. How can I make you better? What do you need to do to make yourself better? He had these chats with players. How you're enjoying training? How do you enjoy being here? How can we make it more accommodable? Like more, you know, make it easier for you to live here. You know, I can't get my words out today. You know, I can't remember that football team and I don't know what the hell accommodable means. But anyway, you know, you get me drift, don't you? He sat down with these players, you know, and he made them feel welcome. He put his arm around some of them, give some of them a kick up the arse that they needed. And we went on a massive run. That got us to the Carabao Cup final. You know, got us way up the league. Because after that game against Brentford, I thought, well, Europe's out the window. I never thought we'd go on a Champions League push. You know, we had a little bit of a rocky patch just before the Carabao Cup final, and obviously we've lost games after that. But I just think the job that Eddie Howe's done to win us a trophy and finish 5th, you know, where we were, as I explained, the mentality of the club of where we were before he come in and before the ownership come in, but not just the ownership, before Eddie Howe come in. Eddie Howe's changed the mentality, not the owners give us a lift, the owners give us that belief, but Eddie Howe's managed to carry that through. Eddie Howe's made us believe that we're the top club again. Through his post and pre-match press conferences, just the way he oozes class in them. The fact that you can tell, you know, he's detailed in everything that he does. He doesn't let any details slip away, does he, Eddie Howe? He's in the training ground. He lives and breathes Newcastle United. He lives and breathes football. Eddie Howe is a top draw elite manager. Make no bones of that. And like I say, I've had my times where I've doubted him and he's proved me wrong every single time. But the journey that he's took us on is absolutely fantastic. I never thought I'd see Champions League football in my lifetime again. I was happy if we'd have finished 8th. I'd have been happy if we'd have got the Conference League once in 10 years. That's how far down my hopes and my aspirations were for this football club until Eddie Howe come in. Now, well, that man does deserve a statue in my eyes. He's the greatest modern day manager we've had. And he's just a class act to go with it, isn't he? So that's a little brief synopsis of the journey that Eddie Howe's taken us on. It's been a roller coaster, it's been ups and downs, there's been a lot of doubt. Some fans even turned on me included last season. But we've stuck with the process. I'm happy to be proved wrong. Eddie Howe is a top draw manager, and what he's done this season with a club that hasn't spent anything on a first team player in 2 years, 3 transfer windows in 2 years, to get us a Carabao Cup after beating Liverpool. We beat Chelsea in that Carabao Cup. We beat Nottingham Forest and we beat Arsenal twice in that Carabao Cup. And to finish 5th, what an achievement that is. Newcastle United are now back in the Champions League. That's 2 out of the last 3 seasons we've been in the Champions League. It's not a fluke no more. It's an expectation. It's not a, oh yeah, we're happy to be here. It's we're here and we need to take over. And that's what we want to be doing now. This is a big summer for us and we need to be taking over now. Because we played well the other year, in the Champions League. We did. We battered PSG. We drew at 0-0 at the San Siro. We drew controversially against Paris Saint-Germain at the Parc des Princes. You know, we should have beat them then. But ultimately, the 2 games against Dortmund, where they schooled us because of the well-oiled European machine, is what stopped us. But we're back again. We need to learn from the mistakes. We didn't train on the pitch any time away from home before. We need to do that this time. Get a feel of the pitch. Not every pitch is the same. He will learn from the mistakes. Look at the Carabao Cup final. Look at the hotel we got the first time, when we were right in the thick of it. The second time he took us to somewhere nowhere near. And look how relaxed they were. Get them players on them pitches away from home. He will learn from them mistakes anyhow, because that's what type of manager he is. He has took us from the doldrums to the Champions League twice now, and he's won us a trophy. So well done Eddie Howe, and well done Newcastle United for bringing me the greatest season I've ever had in 30 years of being a fan. So well done, and up the tune, and massive summer now, massive summer, and we will keep marching on, don't we? And we will get the players that we want. I have all the faith in the world now that we will get the players that we want, and we will make a bang. Believe me, we'll make a bang just like Villa did. We are more than capable of making a bang in the Champions League. Well, anyway, as I always say, keep it black and white, keep it Pooley Mag TV, over and out.